Well, it's a nice chilly day, and I think it's a great day for us to go figure out what kind of septic system do we have on an abandoned house from 1914. So we're gonna drive on over there. I'm gonna take you with me. We're gonna see what we find, and the better question is it still working? See you in a few seconds. Well, that was a fun little drive. We finally made it to the property, and it's going to be a little bit loud moving forward, so I just want to set expectations. This house is next to a main road, so if the audio volume's not quite right, I'm going to do my best to balance everything out, but let's go ahead and get on out there and see what we find. So it's a little on the cold side, so we had to put on the coat so we can actually keep a little bit warm. Now that we're here, we need to wander around and see if we can figure out where this tank is before we really get started. So let's go see if there's anything obvious on the property. The very first thing we're gonna see when we get off the driveway is this large terracotta pipe. Usually on old 1900s houses, this would be septic related. So we're gonna get the mirror and flashlight in a second, see inside of it. The main concern I have is this massive tree sitting right in front of it. I also don't like these trees because they have all these spiky little leaves on them. Terrible little things they are. But the concern would be if the sewer line is coming from the house to the tank, we're gonna have to worry about some roots getting in there. So let's keep walking around and see what else we find. Okay. We can see here that we're near the patio, closer to the home, and we see this very out of place rock looking device. We're gonna have to get our hook to see if we can get that off to see what's underneath of it. First thing I'm gonna wanna do though is look inside of this pipe. I need to see what is it, so that way I know if I even need to bother messing with that concrete slab. Let's grab the mirror and flashlight and take a peek inside. Now we've got our flashlight and our mirror. Let's go ahead and take a peek. Oh boy, that's pretty far down there. But we see a dirt floor on the bottom. So usually what that would tell me is that this is probably a dry well. So let's go back to the concrete slab and take a look at that. We're gonna take this handy dandy hook, bring this with us. This is our convincing hook to get this thing to convince itself open. Let's see what we're working with here. Okay, there it is, pops right up. Nothing. Okay. Well, maybe it's something. Let's see what we got underneath. Trash can lid. Perfect. Now we move into the rest. Some kind of wooden structure. Okay, this is probably our tank. This is probably going to be a clean out on the tank, an old school version of a clean out, but a clean out nonetheless. Unfortunately, because it's got a trash can as the lid and wood as its supports, dirt and stuff's getting in there. So now what I need to do is I need to get a shovel, clean that out as best I can, and hopefully when we pop open the tank, we'll actually be able to see some stuff. So once I get it open, I'll grab you and we'll see it together. Operation Remove Junk Off of Lid has been successful. Let's go on and take a look, see what we're working with. So we can see inside that this is actually a concrete tank. That's beautiful, good to see, especially for 1914. We've got PVC pipe coming into the tank. A little bit of a concern of where that pipe's coming in. It's not quite making it all the way into the tank. What we're looking at right here is the front baffle. There should be another one somewhere back there. But again, we got this big tree that we got to worry about being between the tank and the pit. So we're gonna go ahead and get some water running in the house. We'll take our mirror, look inside of there, make sure everything's doing what it's gotta do. So the good news is it's a concrete tank. The bad news is I'm running water and I don't really hear that water getting to the pit. What we're trying to do is verify that those roots aren't causing any problems, because this particular house doesn't want us to have the yard dug up. With that tree, the only way to get to the outlet line and start digging would be to start destroying some of the branches. So they're trying their best to avoid tree issues. They're probably going to end up having tree issues regardless, but nonetheless, how we're going to take a look to see how those pipes are functioning is we put a lot of water through there. Now, we're running a bunch of water from the home into the tank. We can see that we have a very healthy flow of water into the system, and then when we walk to the pit, we're not going to see any of that. This is why it's important to have water whenever you're testing your septic system. So as we get to the pit, we don't hear any water flowing into it. And now that's a problem, because we don't have any drain fields on this system. We'll hear a little bit of a trickle, but we don't hear as much flow as what's coming in to the tank. So what this tells me is there's something obstructing the pipe. So we're putting in a good amount of water into the tank. We should be hearing something similar or close to the same volume of water going into the pit. If we don't hear that volume of water going to the pit, or we hear less water going to the pit, that means something is preventing that water from getting the rest of the way. In this circumstance, I have a feeling it's probably this tree. So the next step is to go ahead and get rid of the tree, get the back of the tank open, and see where the rest of the pipes go and how do they look. Well, turns out they don't want to go ahead and proceed with the excavation. Seems like maybe they might be looking for a different opinion. That's fine. We've talked about this before. If you have a difference of opinion, or you think the contractor's not quite right, always ask for another opinion. I like to think that I'm always right, but there might be somebody else who has a different method or a different process. So now that we know that it's time to get moving, let's continue to talk a little bit about trees on your septic system and how bad they are. It seems like every now and again I end up with a tree over top a tank, and it usually comes in pairs. It seems like this week is that week. And even though this particular customer does not want to proceed with the rest of the diagnostics, it's important that we go ahead and talk about what could possibly be going on and what are the ramifications of having a tree over top of your septic system. The primary issue in this particular circumstance is I believe that that tree is somehow obstructing or restricting the flow of the water from the tank to the dry well. This could become problematic and cause a backup in the home if enough water is introduced all at once. The one benefit is that, you know, if it's not backing up, you're probably never going to notice. So that might be the avenue that they're looking to go in this particular circumstance. I don't think that's the best kind of avenue to go, but it's certainly one of them they could be taking. The larger concern with having a tree over top of your tank is going to be destruction of the concrete. The roots are very strong. As I'm sure you're aware, you've probably seen city sidewalks and even asphalt in the ground just getting ripped up by the roots that are around that particular piece of asphalt or concrete. The same thing happens to a septic tank. All it takes is one little tiny gap, and then all of a sudden those roots can get real big and start squishing stuff. They'll eventually rip the tank up itself. They'll rip the walls apart. They'll lift the lid off the top of the tank. I had one probably about 6 months ago where they had a darn near forest sitting right on top of the tank, and it had lifted the top of the entire tank up by about 2 inches. With that particular tank, there was no saving it because the roots had just gotten everywhere. It was just replace the whole thing, start over situation, and don't put trees on top of your tank. That particular system took several decades before those little tiny trees that created a privacy fence became big trees that created a really big privacy fence. That's why it's important that whenever you're doing anything on your property, whether it's digging, planting something, building something, you need to have somebody come out and locate and identify where your sewer line is, where your septic tank is, distribution box, drain field, dry well, any of the septic components, and your water line. You should have somebody come locate and identify so that way you don't put something over top of it, which will eventually cause problems. You may be saying, well, you know, hey, that's not my problem. I'm going to move in 3 years. Okay, but don't be a jerk. Like, somebody's going to have to deal with it. And also, for all you know, you might get stuck there.
I have plenty of homeowners and personal people that I know where they planned to move, but life got in the way, and then they just ended up staying in a particular spot for 30 years. So you may think what I'm doing right now is not a problem because I leave in 3 years. You could be the one dealing with that problem in 30. So just make sure you're not building, planting, or doing anything weird over top of your septic system. The next problem that they're going to end up having is the removal of this tree. Most of the times they're going to cut it down piece by piece, but if they bring a large piece of equipment, they got to make sure they're careful not to collapse the lids and maybe collapse more of the piping. You could go from a real simple repair of just the pipes, and now you're having to replace concrete tanks or the blocks in the dry well, or maybe if you do a really big enough damage, you might end up having to replace the whole thing. There's a variety of problems that can pop up in the removal process, which is why it's important to make sure you get somebody who's licensed to take care of the tree. I've been finding a lot of people have been using the videos of the sewer lines that I take to come back whenever they have trees removed and basically file insurance claims. So if you plan to remove a tree, it'd be a good idea to go ahead and scope those lines, get a video of the before, and once you're done, have a video of it afterwards to verify that nothing happened to your pipe. If something happened to your pipe, now you have evidence of what it looked like before the work was done and what it looked like after the work was done. If there's only one common person, the tree guy who did the work, guess what? He's the one that's responsible for fixing the problem. Anywho, even though we didn't get to do much with this one beyond try to figure out that, hey, we got a problem, hopefully you found this informative, and if you did, leave a comment below. Let me know. Did this help you out? Do you have a tree on top of your septic system? Anywho, guys, I have videos posted every day in the world of well and septic, and I look forward to talking to you later.